Thank you, People Matters, and thank you, Atul. It's so great to have Atul with us, who's going to share some insights about the industry that he belongs to. And I'm not a practitioner. I meet a lot of people in the room. I meet a lot of HR heads and the CEOs of the organizations and help them automate their HR systems, specifically towards the talent acquisition and recruitments. Moving on to our first slide, and let's start from, what's the current state of recruitment today, right? And we clearly see three trends in this space. The first trend being the emerging workforce, right? And emerging workforce has made us, think again that are we hiring correctly? Are we having the right talent acquisition strategy in place? How do we connect with the job seekers outside? Second being the post-recession thinking, right? I mean, people are still thinking in their head that are we going to have another 2008 in the coming times? So there's a post-recession thinking, and also on the fact that at least for the industry, Atul, that you belong to, where there's a volume hiring, quite often we see that something which we used to call as a taboo, that people switching on jobs in a year or two, we see that a lot happening, right? So the trend is changing. People hop on jobs to negotiate a better compensation and salary, right? And third being technology disruption, right? Every second day we see somebody coming up with a new technology in the recruitment, while we think and believe that it's for us to adopt that and it's for easing out our jobs, but the ground reality is it's adding up to more complexities, right? So Atul, are we in sync with these trends? Do you see the same trends in Infosys or otherwise in the service industry, or how do you see it happening for the business that you're in?
No, so Vinay, it's same. It's no different at Infosys or the industry. If I look at from my point of view, it's going to be the same as such. Okay. So, friends, let me start with some numbers. Numbers is something the recruitment fraternity love to see over there. $150 billion is roughly the current size of the Indian IT industry. The potential to grow is close to around $350 billion in next 8 years by around 2025. So that's the opportunity that all of us have in front of us. But having said that, 70% of it is threatened by automation. So that's the point we are trying to make over here. The sooner we adapt to automation, we can be a part of this success story, be a part of this 350 billion success story out here. Else, there are chances that we may come down to 50 billion as such. Because as I said, 70% of the business, we are going to move towards the automation. So if Indian IT industry doesn't adapt to automation, there's somebody else going to grab this opportunity, take this business out of us. So that's what it is. If you look at it, the normal business in the Indian IT industry, it's majorly into the services space predominantly. The business IT service space, our normal bread and butter, the ADM, the testing kind of profiles that we hire. But having said that, as we move on into it, it's no more a game of generic skills. We're talking about new age skills. We're talking about niche skills, which essentially means the talent pool is going to shrink for all of us. Hence, earlier, if we had a pool of, let's say, 50,000 profiles, it's going to shrink down to 15,000. And the responsibility of a recruiter would be to mine talent from this limited talent pool. Hence, it's very important for a recruiter to be technology enabled. And that's the point we are trying to make. So just talking about my personal experience, 16 years of IT recruiting experience, initial 13 to 14 years, old school of thought. I was extremely averse to technology. But then I realized, if we are not being part of this story, we are going to miss it. We are going to miss the bus. Hence, in last 2 years, 3 years, it's been our endeavor. Our focus has been majorly onto the technology.
Okay. Well, I mean, Mr. Sikka is talking about the technologies. He's talking about bringing that chain and bringing automation to bring in more efficiency. And I have some statistics to show you, right? The part of my role, as I said, involves meeting a lot of people in the industry, both at the business level and at the HR level. And there's a survey that PwC did. This is the annual PwC CEO survey. And globally, they did a survey with the renowned leaders to find out that have their talent-related expenses gone up, or has it impacted their profitability in any possible way? I won't go through the entire metrics, but if you look at this, 43% of the people said that the talent-related expenses have gone up than expected. Now, why is it happening, right? Let's look into that. Why is it happening? One, either we are not finding people, right? Second, we are taking a lot of time to find these people, right? Which means that I fail to believe the fact that we don't have people around, right? We have people around. Internet has made us access to these people, but the paradigm is we have access, but that doesn't make our life easier,
True.
right?
That's true.
Now look at the fact that if we understand our candidate today, which means if we understand that what is a candidate doing, if we understand that where are these candidates, if we understand the behavior and psyche of the candidate, probably that can reflect when a recruiter is actually sourcing for that candidate, right? So, Atul, in your experience, I mean, you've mentioned that you've graduated from those old school of thoughts to, being a technology enabler in the organization. How do you see today's candidate for the kind of hiring that you do today?
See, today's candidate, if I look at it, they've got a lot of options available with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's very important for a recruiter to make the candidate life easier when he or she is going through a process as such.
Right.
Okay, so that's something you have to ensure over there.
Right.
Right from the application stage,
right,
to the interviewing stage, to the offer release till the candidate comes on board. So
yeah,
whole cycle of recruitment, we have to ensure we give a best experience to a candidate. That's something very important.
And you touched upon a very valid point, which is candidate experience, right? I mean, when I meet people, they end up saying that, we have a great career side, we create a great experience for the people. End of the day, and I can put this question to everybody in the room, think and imagine an organization that you really aspire to work for. Go onto their career page, try applying as a candidate, possibility that you might go through a nightmare, right?
Absolutely.
So they haven't still figured out that what is that experience that we want to give to the candidate. And that brings me to this part of the story, which says that the candidate today is a consumer candidate, right? If we as an employer, if we are sellers, it's very much of a candidate's market or a buyer's market today, right? We've been talking about the fact over these years that there is something called as passive candidate that exists somewhere. I don't find them, I'm sorry. Anybody who is in social media today, anybody who is online today, aren't they active? We have access to all of that, right? Aren't they active?
Exactly. So they are active. If you look at it, even if we talk about the LinkedIn, which has caught up all of us in the recruiting industry as such. So my interaction with LinkedIn, initially they said we're just a social networking site.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, LinkedIn is no more a social networking site. All of us use it for our recruiting purpose. And LinkedIn, if you look at it predominantly, the majority of the pool you will find over there are the so-called passive candidates.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. This is the recruiter responsibility to make those passive candidates into active candidates, and which is what is happening in today's world.
Very true. And that says that today a candidate is using about 18 resources, and this could be research before they go out in an organization and kind of apply there. This could be they're going to Glassdoor, this could be they're going to career sites, this could be they're talking to some people within the organization, but that's what a candidate is doing. A candidate is very smart. Is a recruiter today that smart or that technically fit to be able to get these candidates and get a conversation going on to these candidates, right? And that's what we need to talk about in the future.
Exactly. So the first thing which a recruiter need to do in the today's industry is that change in the mindset, okay? As I said, we are all used to the traditional way of hiring. So unless we accept the technology is there to help us, we are not going to change that. So first is the mindset shift, which is extremely important in the recruiter's mind, in the organization mind. And then going around as to how you will implement this.
Perfect. So what are the choices we have? Again, as I said, the expenses related to talent are going up. As employer, as the talent acquisition practitioner, what are the choices that we have? We have two choices, right? Either we keep on adding more people to the funnel or to the tunnel rather. We keep on adding more people, and again, we talk about those ratios, people coming in, people getting interviewed, and then people getting hired. So we say that the ratios remain the same, let's get more people. Second choice is that bring in technology, right? Bring in technology, optimize your funnel, and get something out of that. And that brings me to the point, Atul, that for the organizations which are aspire to be worked for, you see a lot of candidates applying, a lot of people coming in, and there are actually an inventory of CVs and data available with these organizations. Do you think it's right to say that we are not optimizing that inventory and we're not making the best use of that, and we are rather relying on our Naukris and LinkedIn's and other sources of the world and spending money there?
True. Vinay, that's a very valid point. See, the first thing what you have to look for is you need to ensure that your data is at the right place. Yeah. So hence you need to ensure that you've got a world-class parser in place wherein you put the profiles into your ATS, into your recruitment system. That's something very important. I was hearing to one of the conversations earlier, the gentleman made a very valid point. Most of the companies, they have that data with them, but they don't know whether they have that information with them.
Yeah.
So hence, it's very important for the organizations to mine the internal database, something which organizations today don't do effectively, including my own organization, as I said. Okay, so that's the most important part.
But you're building on that. I mean,
Yeah,
you're working on that.
We are working on
Yeah.
that. Obviously, we have to change.
Yeah.
As you said, if you're talking about the funnel part as such, the 50% hiring or more than that is towards the niche skills or the new age skills, where the talent is limited.
Yeah.
Hence, it's very important you mine the existing database. So that's the second key thing. You need to have proper tools in place to mine your internal database.
Yeah.
The third thing is that once you have exhausted your internal database, you have to look for the ways and means how you can mine the external database. So you need to have technology in place which helps you in terms of getting that work done for you.
Right. I mean, I would safely assume that we trust our recruiters, right? We trust these people who are bringing talent to the organization. And I would not say that we are forcing recruiters to go out and search talent from the external sources. I mean, if they have talent available internally, as long as we enable them to search that talent and get something out of that, I don't see a reason why recruiters would not prefer that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's where I'm going on to, that this is where the future lies. The future lies that if we can enable them with those arms and ammunitions, the future lies in bringing that intelligence in the machines so that they are not investing a lot of time in just mining through that data, mining through the external databases, and the time which they invest is more towards creating that engagement or that relationship with that candidate, right? Now, everybody has heard about these technologies. We've had sessions before. Deborita Sen spoke about this. A lot of other people spoke about this. These technologies have been there for some time, right? Artificial intelligence, deep learning, machine learning, semantic technology. So we've been thinking, eating, breathing these technologies for some time, but do we actually know what they mean in the recruitment business, right? If you talk about artificial intelligence specifically, industries who have adopted this or who are trying to adopt this are banking, right? They say that banking is going to go from mobile first to AI first, right? A lot of organizations or the industries today have not even gone to mobile first now. So that's very bullish about AI. Then again, banking says that the profitability is going to be impacted directly if they use AI into the banking space. So is healthcare, right? Healthcare, we see a lot of predictions happening using AI within healthcare. And so is retail. And there are a lot of other industries. I was reading an article that IBM Watson did something in the fashion industry and using the videos of the fashion weeks or using some of the blogs by the designers, you can actually predict that what is going to be the fashion in 2025, and that's amazing, right? The fashion enthusiasts can think about this, that this is what people would like, right? Atul, you and I would not be wearing similar jacket, we would be wearing something else in 2025, right, when we come up and speak about this. So this is so interesting, and I think the good part to know is that if we learn the science behind it, and I'm not going to touch too much about this, if we learn the science behind it and keep it very simple, right? Let's not be very artificial on the fact that we have some fancy technologies like the AI or deep learning, and how do we adopt that into the system? Let's keep it very simple, right? And that brings me to a point that, Atul, if we really have to keep it simple and not use jargons like an AI or deep learning, how do you envisage it in the recruitment space, right? How do you see as a basic application of this in what we do today?
So Vinay, that's the right word. We need to keep it plain and simple. Having said that, first thing we need to accept that the change is in front of us and we need to be a part of this change story. And I am again reiterating this thing. Because if you look at the machine learning or the AI that everybody is talking about, it started way back in 1950s as such. So it's been almost 65 odd years, but the industry it's only now 2 years, 3 years where the industry is catching it up. Yeah. So that's something really, really important for us, okay? So talking about from the recruitment perspective, what we need to ensure is that we need to release the recruiter's bandwidth. That's something very, very important, okay? Now, how do you release the recruiter's bandwidth? Starting right at the sourcing stage or the screening stage. Today, at least, we have a lot of AI tools available with us. In fact, Vinay, you have been doing a lot in that particular area, who can help us streamlining our sourcing and screening process, and that's something very important. The another part is your scheduling process. I'm only talking about the simple steps as such. Today, we've got chatbots available, we've got other logistics available, which can simplify our job as such. So that's what we need to do. And thereby, releasing the bandwidth of a recruiter, okay, in doing all the other important works, which is like engaging with the candidate and engaging with the business. So from recruiter, it's completely a shift from being a recruiter to a talent advisor, and that's what business is looking at it. They are looking for an advisor who can sit with them, who can speak their language, who can guide them, who can basically tell them that these are the resources that are available, these are the resources you need to hire to grow your business, rather than just getting a mandate and just pushing into it and converting it into a number.
Okay, perfect. So if you keep it simple, right, and if you think of the first part of what you spoke about, that if we bring artificial intelligence in the sourcing space, and that's where the recruiters are spending maximum time, I would safely assume that we'll be able to release about 30% to 40%
Absolutely,
bandwidth, right?
absolutely, Vinay.
Right?
Yep.
And because that's where recruiters are spending most time, searching for, that so-called best fit, right? And they've still not been able to find that. Now, as I was talking earlier, what's the option that we have? First option is that, keep adding more people in that value triangle, but having more is not the solution, right? If the haystack is bigger, finding that needle in that haystack is even more challenging. It's even more challenging, right? And there's nothing that we have of this sort that, we have some magic wand that can bring all the needles from that haystack. It's not happening right now. So what's the way forward? If you think about this, and as I was saying that, if we can mine our own data, right? If there's a great value in the data that you've created over the period of time. If we mine that own data the right possible way, that's where how can we optimize the entire recruitment chain, right? I really like this quote that says the value of human capital data is directly proportional to our ability to find people which are right fit or the right match, right? Otherwise, the data is redundant, right? We can have like 2 million, 3 million CVs lying somewhere in that dark matter, but if you're not accessing them correctly, if you're not bringing the match out of that, it's not helping us, right? And I'm almost sure if you ask everybody for your respective organizations, when we go for hiring, how much of it are we really doing it from our internal database? If that's a crucial metric to look at and evaluate, I'm sure we'll have answers to that.
No, definitely. I'll just give a quick example over there. One of my team member, he walked up to me, hey, my business needs a .NET profile. So I said, what's big deal about it? I mean, .NET, you just close your eyes and you'll get it.
Yeah.
I said, boss, hold on. I just don't
That's
need
a vanilla skill, right?
That's a vanilla skill, okay? I need a .NET with a UI interface, XYZ, with these many years of experience. And they're also looking at, okay, close to around 4 years of experience in this particular stream. Whereas if you look at it, this combination is only available for last 2 odd years. So this is the kind of demand that is coming up. Okay? .NET, something we can just close it. Even somebody who is spending a first day in my team can close .NET requirements. But if we are talking about these multiple combinations, this combination,
and that brings a great point, and you put a great example.
So it's very important for us to leverage technology who can simplify our life.
Yeah, we've moved from that space wherein we should know, or technology should know, that semi-skimmed milk equals milk skimmed semi, or equals something else which is also skimmed, right? And we haven't gotten there. And this brings me to this point that if you don't know to ask the right question, you discover nothing, right? Each one of us sitting here have been working on Booleans, right? I mean, we sometimes say that this is our Boolean expert, he's a Boolean certified recruiter, he is so-called the best recruiter because he does best Boolean searches for me, right? What is Boolean? I mean, if you think through this, Boolean is about 3 operators, and, or, not. Right? Agree? It doesn't matter what these 3 operators are. What matters is what you're putting in between 3 operators, right? Now, if I ask you to think of a bird, you may think of a peacock, I may think of a parrot, right? Which means that we are 2 different humans. I may put something else in those quotes and ands and nots, but it is not going to make sense out of it.
Both are colorful birds, sir.
Right? So we've moved, and that's where the artificial intelligence and deep learning is coming into the picture, that we've moved from those Booleans to semantic. And what is semantic? Semantic basically is, do you understand the language? Do you know and do you understand that I'm looking out for a semi-skimmed milk, and it equals milk skimmed semi? Sir, we started late, okay? I mean, there's no 3 minutes. We're going to take some time. We started quite late. Okay. Right. Okay. Sorry. So this is semantic, and semantic search is the ability to learn more from that language that you're putting into semantics, right? So that's semantic search. This is Google's ex-SVP, Amit Singhal, and he says that the search in the last decade has moved from give me what I said to give me what I want. And when it comes to search, I mean, everybody have a reference point from Google because that's what they do. They do semantics. They do semantic search, right? It doesn't matter if you type anything in Google, Google prompts you. Is that what you mean? And that's exactly where we're moving on to. That's exactly what the artificial intelligence in the first phase, which eats up the pie, which is the sourcing time, takes over, right?
Now, I'm sure my friend Sanjeev can correlate it far better, right?
Yeah. All right, so let's say if we bring in semantic, right? If we bring in semantic in the high volume hiring organizations, what's the impact that it's going to make, right? The first impact, as we said, how it automates the entire sourcing bit, right? So it automates the manual search, manual selection. It also includes the inclusion, basically, which means that if you're looking out for a semi-skim milk, all related milk items, milk terms should be coming up. And you're not getting into that dark matter wherein there was just one result of semi-skim milk and you just end up having that, right? Most important, the time that we are spending in sourcing these candidates, if you're spending about 4 to 5 hours, as I was saying earlier, we can very much release that bandwidth to about 40%, and that time can be invested by having those relationships with the candidates and building on the engagement with that candidate.
That's true, Vinay. I guess that's the most important part. That's the more important part as to how a recruiter can release his or her bandwidth.
Yeah.
That's something we all need to think about it.
So you did talk about that. If we have the data, first thing is to sanitize the data and parse that data. What do you think, how would you bring in semantics for a large size organization which brings in a lot of volume hires? How does that impact you as a practitioner and overall your organization or the industry?
So what happened, Vinay, is that 2 years ago we realized that what we have been doing is that we are just mining the fresh data, okay, and we just forgot the power of the internal database that we have with us. Okay, so that's something we realized as such. Okay, and that's when we started exploring the tools that are available into the market as such, as to how we can simplify our activities as such. So as I mentioned earlier, the internal database mining, that's the key step that we have been doing. To some extent, we started partnering with CareerBuilder as well, as to how we can start our journey in terms of internal data mining. There are other tools also available into the market as such, okay? And that's something very important for us to realize, okay? Today, if we look at it, everybody is talking about ML and AI.
Yeah.
But what the organizations or what a recruiter, they need to explore and they need to be very sure as to what really works in their ecosystem. Yeah. Today, there will be 10 firms who are offering excellent solution, but all 10 may not work for me. So that's something very, very important for us.
And that brings me to a point that if you look at this, and this is basically what semantic is all about, right? Anybody who has done IT recruitments here, people have been hiring for Hadoop a lot, and Hadoop and cloud, and let's say you're looking out for a Java developer with Hadoop and cloud, right? 3 words, Java, Hadoop, and cloud. The artificial intelligence brings more out of it. It brings in that inclusion, right? That a Java developer also comes with these skill sets. Java developer is also called as a J2EE developer. If you're looking out for Hadoop, a person who has Hive written in his CV also means Hadoop, by the way. So normally a recruiter doesn't think through that, but artificial intelligence makes that recruiter more equipped, right? So a three-word query became like a 58-word machine query, and that probably gives you better results, right?
So Vinay, I'll just pause over here. Okay, you have been into this industry for long. You have been talking about these products long. Okay, if I look at it just for the simple process as such, how much bandwidth a recruiter is going to release out here?
I mean, look at that, right? Otherwise, if you're looking out for, as you said, .NET developer with certain skills, I would spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Were you thinking that what is going to be my Boolean search query first? When I put the Boolean search query wherever, you see the first few results, and then you start seeing 5th, 6th, 7th result, which is not relevant. And then it all goes haywire, right? So which means that a lot of time goes into sourcing. With this, I'm pretty sure that the sourcing gets reduced, sourcing time gets reduced, which means even if you're reducing 30 to 40%, that's a good enough time that we can engage with the people. And what does that mean? That means that speed by which we recruit increases, which also means that a better engaged person is likely to stay more in the organization because we've been talking for a long time and the right things that we've spoken. So I would safely assume that about 30 to 40% bandwidth a recruiter would be able to
That's a great
release.
value addition.
Yeah. I was talking about inclusions, which means, I mean, I gave you Java Hadoop example. If you're looking out for a sales manager who's a high performer, right? What does that mean? A high performer somewhere means, like for our organization, a sales performer is a performer if he has qualified for the President's Club trip. We send our people to Maldives and Mauritius and wherever. So if he is qualified, he would write that in his CV. Somebody else would write something else. So all those inclusions are possible through semantic search, right? Now that brings me to a point that what is that tech fit recruiter, right? If a tech fit recruiter has the right technologies, he's been able to search correctly, he's been able to channelize the recruitment workflow correctly, spending less time in these workflows, what would a tech recruiter be like? You know, what's the definition for that tech recruiter? Tech fit recruiter rather, sorry.
No, a tech recruiter, let me tell you a very simple thing, okay? We talk about the different stages of the recruitment life cycle, okay? Today, a recruiter is doing all this stuff manually. Simple stuff is that if you can release that bandwidth, you can move on to the technology stuff, which can help you sourcing, screening, help you scheduling the interviews, okay? That's what is a tech fit recruiter. Yeah. That's the ideal thing we are talking about.
Okay, and where do you see the future? Where do you see that, how are we moving from here? So if we start simple, if we start slow, we start with semantic and recruitment that directly brings in the change, how do we take it up from there? What are the next steps, or where do you see the future of this?
Okay. So if you look at it, okay, the business today is looking about just-in-time hiring. They're looking at cutting down the costs out here. That's what it is. Today, trend, if you look at it, we look at the past data and then we decide, and that's what we call predictive hiring. Having said that, the future is not going to be predictive hiring, it's going to be prescriptive hiring, wherein a recruiter will have to decide at what exactly will work for that, and accordingly even start recruiting before you get the hiring mandates for them. And that's going to be the future.
Okay. And
so that's the ideal stuff we are talking about. Yeah. At the end of it, we don't realize the power of analytics. That's something extremely important for all of us to get our data together, to get our numbers together. Hence, it's very important to have unified dashboard, which gives a complete view, right from sourcing till the person coming on board. And that's what is something very, very important for a recruiter, for a user, for all the other facilitators, all the other functions that are part of the recruitment journey.
Perfect. So if you have to conclude our conversation today, and if you have to summarize, what are some of the things that we can tell our audience today that can really help them bring these technologies in the easiest possible way, which are easier to adopt, easier to use, and easier to bring that change within the recruitment life cycle?
So we look at it. Most of the companies, they've got in-house tools. They try and develop certain things on their own. But the simpler part is most of these tools are available in the market. Be it we are talking about the sourcing or the screening tools, they are available in the market. That's something we need to look at. Be it about the scheduling tools, they are available into the market. So the important part is that how you integrate all these things. Yeah. Okay? The core thing which we forget is the analytics part. That's something very, very important for a recruiter or for any organization to make out the health and the state of the recruitment as such. What's happening in the organization. There are multiple tools available for that. Tableau is a wonderful tool available over there. Power BI is another fantastic thing out there. So that's something very, very important. In fact, at Infosys, if any of my recruiter, they have to walk into the meeting, they don't carry printouts. They just have their mobile phones with them, and they've got Power BI reports on over there. They just go and present it in front of the business.
So we're slowly and gradually getting there, keeping it simple. What is more important as a priority 0, let's get that done first. Create those building blocks, and let's build on that, right? Sure. That brings me to our conclusion. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, folks.